for the great American Dream Cruise. And there is one of the other drivers. He's an active driver. He'll be on that
certainly
cruise.
Is. Mike Eddy, that's kind of a funny story, because one of his best lines is, "I don't come here to make no friends." But he says now he's going on that cruise to make a bunch of them.
Ken Schrader is truly an interesting personality. I mean, we all talk about Ken Schrader because everyone knows he's one of America's most active race drivers. But every once in a while, it's worthwhile to step back and think about the accomplishments that Ken Schrader has made and what he does do and what he means to motor racing. He'll run open-wheel cars. He'll run little quarter-mile, even fifth-mile racetracks. He runs the super speedways. He is one of the fastest super speedway drivers in the South, and a lot of intermediate and short-track, late model, and stock car racing. And he's very strong at all of them, and it is not as easy of an accomplishment as you might think.
Ken Stauffer is coming on pit road, and he was one of the lead automobiles. We continue to look at the 52 machine of Ken Schrader, who told us yesterday, Larry, that it's every bit as tough to win an ASA as it is to win down south.
Ken Stauffer is coming into the pits, motoring along the front stretch, by the way, on a flatbed is the Randy McDonald car. There was some damage to the left front. Ken Stauffer trying to preserve his lap. Darts into the pit area as the leaders under tow of the pace car continue to cruise around this high-banked half-mile.
Kent's from LaGrange, Ohio. He was the first driver to run the V6 Ford power plant and make the real commitment to that for this racing series.
Despite a plethora, good word, eh?
Whoa.
Of yellow
I'm
flags
impressed.
with 96 laps down, Jay Sauter, second-generation racer from the great state of Wisconsin, continues to lead this race. Running in second position is Mike Eddy, Johnny Benson, the two stars of 1992, are second and third. And in fourth position at this point, Larry Phillips, because of a number of pit stops, moves up to that position.
And Larry, 21 cars still remain on the lead lap. There's been so much action on the racetrack, we haven't had an opportunity yet, race fans, to go all the way back through them. As soon as time permits, we will certainly do that. There's Schrader. He's running in fifth position, and car number 44, Pat Bordeaux, who did not come in for a pit stop, has now moved into the sixth slot in that automobile.
Field is anticipating green flag this time around. Roger Slack lifts the green flag above the field of cars, and we're back at green at Odessa.
There's a battle back in the pack. Jeff Neal working on Tom Harrington in car number 91. They were mired in some lap traffic. Now they'll try to break clear. Meanwhile, up front, Mike Eddy resumes the challenge of the leader, Jay Sauter, and he'll do it the high way around the racetrack. Now Eddy looks down low. Remember at the top of the show we said they'd use different lines? That's 3 and 4 run right down at the bottom as Sauter gets almost sideways. Watch how much higher he'll run in turns 1 and 2. Well, not all that much higher, at least not now. And I think the reason he's down at the bottom is he's protecting that position. And here comes Benson back to battle with Eddy for second. Well, as Mike Eddy was worrying about getting by Jay Sauter, he forgot a red and white car number 21 nipping at his heels.
Plus, Mike lost the hand a little bit coming out of corner number 2. And just to give you an idea how quickly things can happen and how fast these cars are traveling, the maximum velocity that really you can get out of contemporary equipment on a half-mile racetrack, he lost just a second, got a little sideways, and almost gave Benson an opportunity to sneak through.
And would you care to guess who's in fourth position and closing rapidly? It's the Kodiak car number 57, local standout Larry Phillips. There's Glenn Allen Jr. in car number 15. Now, he was one of the drivers that came in under this most recent caution, as did the 53 machine of Scott Hansen. He's trying to put a lap on local driver A.J. Cooper as he is battling for 9th position. Cooper did not pit, has been on the lead lap, but the 15 of Glenn Allen Jr., the Quaker State machine, easily able to get by with fresh right-side tires.
We were keeping our eyes on Glenn as we watched the leaders, and he is one of the faster cars on the track right now. He's been in heavy traffic since that yellow flag. He's had to work as hard as anybody in this race up to this point to get where he is. 9th
position, 10th is still Cooper. Right behind him in 11th spot is the 78 machine, last year's Rookie of the Year, Steve Holzhausen. And in 12th, what a surprise, the second season for car number 48, Joe Knott. He's just a kid, and he's running very, very well here this afternoon.
We saw a year ago, despite the fact that he was a raw green rookie, he seemed to be at his best at the faster racetracks, and this is certainly one of the faster runs in ASA, along with the Milwaukee Mile, Nashville, places like that. Joey does very well on these high-speed places where you need to really use the accelerator.
And I believe he's just 19 years of takes him by a long shot, the youngest starter in this field. Second youngest is, I believe, John Lemke at age 24, and he's one of the Rookie of the Year contenders.
The remarkable thing about Joey is right in the middle of the screen. There, we zoom right in. He's that red car there. The remarkable thing about Joey is that he was an absolute racing rookie last year. He hadn't spent 7 or 8 years running at local racetracks or other disciplines. He came new to the sport of motor racing, full-size cars, and his progress in 1992 was very impressive, and it looks like he's making another quantum leap this year.
Right behind him, Tony Raines, car number 25. There he is, the blue and white machine, runs in 12th position. He, too, has been on pit road, as has Jim Cooper, the 13th place car number 95. Again, taking a look at Tony Raines, having to work his way back up through the pack. You know, it was kind of I guess a psychological game that was played under that last caution flag, as the top 5 or 6 elected to stay out on the track. Those behind them chose to come on pit road.
57 and 5, Larry Phillips in the Kodiak number 57, and Jeff Neal in the black, yellow, and red trim number 5. They have been going at it hammer and tong for the last 3 or 4 laps, making it look like they were going for the win on the last lap. Now, Phillips has pretty much been in this position all race long. Jeff Neal, remember, started deep in the back, 21st, and has been charging toward the front since the beginning.
If you were with us last year, Jeff's car looked almost identical, though it was a different make. He retains the split fire sponsorship and is affiliated with a new car owner, Don Finetti. But he's got a familiar name to short track fans in terms of an engine builder. A fellow that used to run a company called Prototype Engineering for years, built some of the strongest short track engines. Now, Jeff's dad, Ron Neal, is building power plants for this race car.
Kind of works out that way.
It really does, doesn't it? Now, what's going to happen if he has a motor problem?
It's not pleasant.
Let's hope not on Easter Sunday, right?
Yes, not pleasant dinner conversation. Anyway, back to this contest. Phillips and Neal are just going at it like cats and dogs, and Phillips actually held that position, and Neal moved up to challenge him. Jeff may be running a little faster than Larry, but Larry is such a veteran on this track. And right behind them in another black car is Todd Forbes. Now, Todd Forbes, I believe, unofficially is still on the lead lap, so that is a race for position well inside the top 15.
I think Forbes may be a lap or 2 down. He's been on pit road several times, and it looks like Glenn Allen Jr. is off the pace in car number 15. Maybe problems for the Quaker State Ford Thunderbird. A big plume of smoke down at turn number 1 as Jeff Neal takes 4th position away from Larry Phillips. We remain under green. We'll keep an eye on things as Glenn Allen Jr. has brought his car into the pit area, actually into the backstretch entrance to pit road. That is not a good sign for Glenn Allen, Leroy Troop Motorsports, or the Quaker State folks here this weekend.
I would say that of all the teams in the American Speed Association this year, that's the one that probably approaches this season with the most optimism. Now, Ralph has been watching this very active competition. There are cars all over the racetrack, and you've been keeping your peepers on the black number 88, Ralph?
You know, Larry, we have, and the reason why he's moved up a little bit, especially down in turns 1 and 2, is he has raided into crew chief Howard Thomas and says that the higher he gets, the smoother the racetrack gets, the faster that number 88 Goodwrench Pontiac will go. The problem for Jay Sauter is he's got to protect that line, so he can't go high enough to get into the smooth stuff. If he does, he gives up that bottom groove, and you know Mike Eddy, bumpy or not, is going to dive down in there.
Well, up front, it's heating up a little bit. There's Brad Loney, one of the promising sophomore drivers. He had a great rookie season a year ago. We're used to seeing him running in the top 10. He holds this line until the leaders get to a point where he recognizes he has to move over. He does so. Jay gets by without any incident. Mike follows suit. John Benson Jr. will be the next one going to the high side of Iowa's Brad Loney.
We showed Brad Loney in that Pops Right Popcorn Chevrolet in the 19th position, so unofficially still 18 cars remaining on the lead lap. Now, sometimes you watch a race, Larry, and you say, gee, all they show is the leaders. Well, so much had been going on back in the pack that we neglected these guys for a while, but nothing has changed. Are you surprised that Eddie hasn't taken a stronger run at Sauter?
Well,
come on.
Yes and no. I need to see. A year ago, I said he was stroking. Remember that?
That's kind of what I was wondering if you were thinking that again.
In the first corner, the reason why I interrupted myself as we continue to watch Sauter and Eddie is that Todd Forbes and Larry Phillips almost came together. Then we're back to the Eddie thing. I think that he recognizes that this is going to be a race of partial attrition. And as long as he is not tremendously faster than Jay Sauter, he might be content to stay behind and pressure him in hopes that a mistake by Jay allows him to take the lead rather than having to punish his car and take the lead. Glenn Allen Jr. is out of the car, and Ralph Shaheen has an update for us.
Well, Glenn, you had some engine problems with this Quaker State car, it seemed like, for most of the day. What finally put you out? I don't know. The oil pressure just dropped. It was time for us to bring it in, but the True Quaker State Turbo Blue Ford really ran good. We had a good car today, and just the way it goes in racing, we just had a good car, and hopefully we'll be back here in a couple of weeks to get at it again. I think that's safe to say, don't you, Larry? They look very strong all weekend long during practice.
I suspect we'll not only see that team the rest of the season, I think you're going to see that face you just saw on the screen for about the next 25 years in motor racing. That's just a